The sound of Clint Eastwood's boots crunching on the gravel echoed through the quiet alley. It was an unexpected scene. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director, walking the streets of a rundown neighborhood, searching for a man who had gone missing. But Clint wasn't looking for any ordinary person. He was searching for a homeless man's dog. His name's Buddy. Clint muttered under his breath. He's got to be around here somewhere. Clint had been contacted earlier that morning by a woman named Emily, who had found a note left on her doorstep from a homeless man named Jack. The note was simple. Please help me find Buddy. He's the only family I have left. The message had struck a chord with Clint. He had always been a man who believed in second chances, whether for a person or an animal, and he couldn't ignore the fact that this man, living on the streets, was pleading for help in a way Clint had never experienced before. As Clint walked deeper into the alley, he was struck by the sheer loneliness that seemed to hang in the air. The city around him was bustling, but here in this forgotten part of town, everything felt still, almost trapped in time. His mind kept returning to Jack's letter. Clint didn't know much about Jack except that he had fallen on hard times and was living on the streets. But the letter, something about it had hit him. The urgency, the raw emotion. It made Clint feel that this search was something more than just finding a dog. It was about finding a connection, something that had been lost in the world. A few yards ahead, Clint spotted a man sitting on a bench, his head hung low, staring at the ground. Clint approached him cautiously, unsure if it was the right person. "Hey," Clint said, his voice steady but filled with curiosity. The man looked up slowly, and Clint saw the deep lines of weariness on his face. The man was in his 50s, scruffy beard, worn-out clothes. But when their eyes met, Clint recognized something, a flicker of recognition. The man's lips trembled, and he barely whispered, You actually came for him?" Clint nodded, his expression softening. "You've lost someone important to you, haven't you?" The man nodded again, tears welling up in his eyes. "Buddy, he's all I've got. I can't lose him too." The weight of those words hit Clint hard. He had known loss in his life, but he couldn't imagine what it must feel like to lose everything: your home, your family, your dignity. And yet Jack had found something to hold on to in the form of his dog. Buddy wasn't just a pet, he was a lifeline. "I'll find him," Clint said, his voice firm now. "I won't stop until I do." Clint's search for Buddy led him deep into the underbelly of the city, a place most people would avoid. The alleyways grew narrower, the air thicker, and the sounds of the bustling city above faded into a distant hum. Clint wasn't just looking for a dog. He was searching for a piece of humanity lost in the cracks of society. Each corner he turned, he saw signs of struggle: broken bottles, discarded clothes, and people who had given up. But Clint wasn't giving up. Not yet. The sky had started to darken when he came across a small park. The benches were empty, the trees swaying in the wind, and a few stray cats roamed freely. Clint's eyes scanned the area, and then he saw it: a tattered old collar on the ground. He bent down and picked it up carefully. It was Buddy's. His heart raced. This was no coincidence. He was getting closer. As Clint stood, a voice called out from behind him, "You looking for someone?" He turned to see a man sitting on a nearby bench, his face shadowed by a worn-out cap. "I'm looking for a dog. Have you seen him? A little brown mutt, maybe?" Clint asked, his voice steady but urgent. The man squinted up at Clint, his eyes sharp despite his weathered face. He didn't speak for a moment, then simply nodded. "Yeah, I've seen him. Last night he was here, and he was with a kid." The mention of a child made Clint's stomach twist. A dog, alone in this mess, was one thing. But a child? That was something else entirely. "Do you know where they went?" Clint pressed. The man stood up slowly, his eyes flicking over Clint's face. "I don't know, but I think I saw them head toward the old factory a few blocks down." Clint's heart skipped. The old factory. That was the last place anyone would go. Dangerous, forgotten, exactly the kind of place where someone could hide. Without hesitation, Clint started moving in that direction, the urgency in his steps growing with each passing second. He was close now. so close. Buddy was just ahead, and whatever else lay at the factory, Clint was ready to face it. Clint's pace quickened as he approached the old factory. The air felt heavier now, charged with an almost unnatural stillness. The building loomed ahead, dark and imposing, its rusted walls and broken windows speaking of years of abandonment. As Clint stepped closer, the sound of distant voices reached his ears, low, murmuring voices almost like a whisper in the wind. His instincts kicked in, telling him to be cautious, but there was no turning back now. This was the place where Buddy was last seen, and Clint wasn't about to let anything stand in his way. As he reached the entrance, the heavy metal doors creaked ominously as they pushed open, revealing a dimly lit interior. The air inside smelled stale, like forgotten things. Clint's eyes adjusted to the darkness as he moved deeper into the building, his boots echoing against the concrete floor. The voices grew louder. He followed the sound, hoping that it would lead him to Buddy. Suddenly, a shadow darted in front of him, causing Clint to freeze. His hand instinctively moved to his belt, but before he could react, a young voice called out from the darkness. "Who's there?" The voice was raspy, filled with fear and uncertainty. Clint slowly stepped forward, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. "I'm Clint Eastwood," he said quietly. "I'm looking for a dog. His name's Buddy. He's with you, isn't he?" There was a long pause, the kind of silence that made Clint's heart race. Then from the shadows, a small figure emerged. A child, no older than 10, wearing tattered clothes and holding a leash in her hand. The leash was attached to a familiar dog. Clint's breath caught in his throat as he saw Buddy. Small, scruffy, and wagging his tail, but clearly scared and hungry. The child hesitated before stepping forward. "He's mine now," she said softly, but there was an edge to her voice, as if she was afraid Clint might take him away. Clint knelt down slowly, his gaze softening. "I'm not here to take him from you," he said gently. "I just need to get him back to his owner. His name's Jack. He's been looking for him. Jack's a good man, and Buddy's his family." The girl's eyes darted to the dog, who was now sniffing at Clint's hands. There was a long silence before the girl finally nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. He's all I have now, too. But I promise I'll be okay." Clint stood up, a deep sadness in his chest. He could see the desperation in the child's eyes, the kind of hunger that had nothing to do with food. "You're not alone," Clint said softly, offering her a small, reassuring smile. "I'll make sure of it." Clint gently took Buddy's leash in his hand and led the dog towards the child, his heart heavy with the weight of the moment. As Buddy wagged his tail, the child let out a small sob, clearly torn between her attachment to the dog and the undeniable reality of letting him go. Clint squatted down to her level, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Listen, kid, I know it's tough. Buddy's not just a dog. He's been your family, too. But Jack's been out there waiting for him, and he needs him back." The girl wiped, her eyes nodding slowly, still unsure. "Will I ever see him again?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling. Clint's gaze softened. He thought about how much this dog had come to mean to both of them, Jack, who had nothing left but Buddy, and this girl, who had found comfort in the small creature that had filled a void in her life. "Maybe not, but you know what? You've done something good today," Clint said, his voice low but firm. "You've let him go where he belongs, and that's the most selfless thing you can do for someone you care about." The girl nodded again, a small, uncertain smile forming on her face as she let go of the leash. Clint stood up, holding Buddy in his arms now. The dog immediately snuggled into his chest as if knowing he was safe again. As Clint walked back toward the entrance of the factory, the girl's voice called out behind him. "Thank you for everything." Clint paused but didn't turn around. "You'll be okay," he said quietly. "And if you need help, you know where to find me." He didn't wait for a response. He had a promise to keep, and he wasn't about to break it. As he stepped outside, Buddy still in his arms, Clint felt the weight of the world lift just a little. He had found the dog, sure, but what was even more important was the connection that had been rekindled. This wasn't just about saving Buddy anymore. It was about restoring faith, one small act at a time. Clint Eastwood's steps were deliberate as he made his way toward the alley, Buddy walking beside him, tail wagging, a sense of calm settling over both of them. The city outside the factory was alive with the usual chaos, horns blaring, people rushing by. But inside there was a strange stillness, as if the whole world had paused just for a moment. Clint's mind raced with thoughts of Jack, the homeless man who had sent him on this mission. Jack had spent weeks, maybe months, in the streets clinging to the memory of his dog like a lifeline. Clint couldn't shake the image of Jack's desperate plea. "Please find Buddy. He's all I've got left." As Clint turned the corner, he spotted Jack sitting on a park bench not far from where they had started their search. His face was drawn, his clothes tattered, but when he saw Clint approaching with Buddy in tow, his eyes widened. Clint's heart tightened. The moment was here. He was about to give Jack the greatest gift he could imagine, the chance to be whole again. Jack stood up slowly, his body stiff, his eyes never leaving Clint as he walked toward him. Clint stopped a few feet from him, kneeling down so Buddy could approach his owner. The dog immediately ran up to Jack, wagging his tail furiously, almost as if he had never been gone. Jack fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he embraced his dog, holding him tight like a man who had just found salvation. "Buddy, oh, Buddy," Jack whispered, his voice breaking. Clint stood up, a feeling of accomplishment and relief flooding over him. But there was something else too, something deeper, something intangible. This wasn't just about a dog. It was about the connection they had all shared through a simple act of kindness. Clint had done more than return a pet to its owner. He had restored a bit of humanity to a man who had been forgotten by society. He had shown a little girl that compassion still existed in the world. And he had reminded himself of something he had almost forgotten, the power of a simple act of selflessness. As Clint walked away, he could hear Jack's voice faintly in the background, still speaking to Buddy, his words muffled by emotion. "We're gonna be okay, boy. We're gonna be okay." The city around him seemed to come alive again, but Clint didn't notice. He had done what he set out to do. The mission was complete. The world wasn't always kind, but sometimes a single moment of kindness could change everything.